Hello and welcome back to the Security Experience. I'm Bill Daniel and I'll be your host on this journey as we champion best practices in delivering enterprise electronic security projects. That's a bit of a mouthful, always is. As we discuss subtleties, complexities in providing world-class delivery of enterprise-level projects worldwide. So with that, I'm excited and honored to introduce my guest for today's podcast. We step away from Canada, from our last episode, and move to Mexico. So welcome, Natalia Cerutti. Her role is Senior Global Security Manager. So welcome, Natalia.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you, to be part of this, and thank you for having me.
So before we start, obviously we like to give a little kind of bio about Natalia. Just as she mentioned, she's a corporate security with 15 years of experience in the private sector, focusing on creating strong security culture. An expert in strategic development, executive protection, crisis management, and the protection of personnel, expatriates, and travelers in high-risk environments. Currently, she's, as I mentioned, a senior global security manager at an automotive company, developing strategies aligned with business processes respecting cultural differences in 25 countries, 170 locations, and supporting 500,000 employees. Wow. I'm not sure if I'd want your job or not, but we'll go from there. With a passion for training and risk management, she integrates cutting edge innovations to effectively reduce risk. Previously, she's had a corporate security manager for 10 years, a luxury vehicle company, and a security consultant. Her academic background is impressive and includes postgraduate degrees in strategic corporate communication and security management. So that's fantastic. And also volunteering with various associations, including ASIS International, which is close to my heart. At a board level, Natalia is sought after speaker at webinars and conferences for security professionals on topics such as security, obviously, self-protection for women, security for travelers and expatriates, security culture, supply chain security, amongst others. So you can understand why Natalia was a top choice to be a guest on this broadcast. And I was delighted you say yes. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. That sounded like a lot, but I don't feel like a lot.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah, thank you.
it's you say that it's very, very worthwhile for our audience to be aware of, at least on a high level, who we're talking to. So as always with these broadcasts, I'm trying to keep it unedited as best as possible so that the questions flow and we kind of grow organically in a direction. So we'll kick things off with the first question, Natalia. In your current role, can you give us an overview, of what your kind of broad role is and your responsibilities for our audience?
That's a complicated question because it's a complicated role. And to begin with, just like non-disclosure, a disclaimer, sorry. Sometimes, I mean, English is not my first language. I'll do my best, but if I say something wrong, just correct me or we like edit and go back.
No problem.
Okay, I'll try to do my best. Well, it's a complex role. More than complicated, I would say complex because the company where I work at right now is like being renewed some way. It comes from a merge where an Italian company and a Japanese company were put together. So that
Wow.
expanded the footprint, which
Hmm.
is the amazing part. And they expanded also the portfolio of products or components that are going to the cars, different brands, different types of components. Very, very wide and interesting development. So yeah, there's the complexity is because from one side there is no security organization established yet. There are like efforts here and there, all over the
Hmm.
place, and they are doing a good job. But there was the need of having kind of structure, order, procedures, policies, standards, all the things that we all know, but under a standard, right? Because as I said, efforts have been done like all over the countries and everything, but different efforts, different levels of security or processes. So the first like challenge in in this complexity is to standardize things. And
Of
it's the
course.
thing here, and one of the parts where I can have more fun is that it's very important to be very sensitive about cultural differences and needs, because I don't know. For example, we know that in countries like Japan, where the security is not exactly a concern. I mean, things happen, but really, really low. The culture is a little bit more sometimes, let's say, respectful from other people's
Hmm.
things, right? So it's not so easy to say, yeah, arrive and say, you need to put a wall here, 2,000 cameras and 500 guards in these plants, because it will be, maybe, I'm not sure yet, but maybe it will be kind of a little bit too much for them, because the
Yeah.
ambience doesn't allow or doesn't push you to that. So, and in other countries might be exactly the opposite. Like, please tell me that I need to have 2,000 cameras. So yeah, balancing these and trying to make standards and organize people to work either full time for security people, or sharing hats with other roles, that is a very interesting challenge. So I think that we jumped to the challenge part, but my role here is to create this structure, this organization, create these standards, the policy, like global policy, and start working with many people around the globe to be part of this project, because in some cases there will be people that is maybe an HR manager or a plant manager or a facilities manager, or both, or the three of them, and then I will go and say, hey, can you help me with the security things too? In many cases they are already doing it, but
Hmm.
without all the background that might be needed to have a very good balance in the site, for example, right? So it's just like, okay, if you have it, let's do it in this way, combined with yours, which
Yeah.
is important. And if you don't have it, okay, let's see who can help in this. Because in this moment, the automotive industry is not in the, generally speaking, is not in the best shape budget wise.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'm not like going to say, okay, I want a security manager here, here, here. Is not
Yeah.
feasible in this moment. So we need to do whatever we have to do with the resources that we have right now, more or
So it
less.
seems to me that from how you've kind of outlined your role, then the people you liaise with, whether it be those maybe who don't have security as front of mind or their role right now, is really, really important to identify what your needs are. So
Yeah.
are you finding as well that then what they're putting in place, and they may have put tools in place that they think's fine,
The what?
but
Sorry.
that they think is good.
Mm.
Are you learning from that as well as you go through the policies and procedures? Are you learning from, as you mentioned, that the cultural norms in different areas where, but I'm sure as well, maybe you'd like to standardize on a system or solution or even a product, and they're picking different things in different places because you haven't had that situation of standards yet. Are you finding that's the case?
I think that it's a learning in progress. I mean, I think it's impossible to know everything about anything. Um, but I would say that the most important part is to have this sensitivity and the awareness of like acknowledging the differences. And it's okay, right? So if the Italians do the things in that way and the Americans in the other way and the Moroccans is in a different way, it's okay. Let's talk people to people and find a solution together. In my experience, what I've seen that is the most rich and helpful activity in these cases, or in many cases, is collaboration. And
Yes.
collaboration means communication. And communication means also listening first. I think that I'm not
Hmm.
sure if it's the Indians or there is some, I don't know, some Middle Eastern country is that they say that for one reason God gave us two ears and one mouth to listen more than we talk.
Yeah, I have a dear former colleague, and I'll mention him by name. He's passed away from years ago, Edwin Morton. And for those of you who may know him historically, he said the same thing to me, the exact same thing. We have two of these and one of these for a reason. And we kind of rolled our eyes at him when he said it, but we were young bucks back then, and now we're more mature, and you kind of go, uh huh. And that's, if I would say, the main message of this broadcast and this podcast is that, you know, if we had to cut it down and slice all the meat off it, it's communication and collaboration.
Right.
So if you can expand on that a little for me, is that you're obviously trying to build a new standards and normality. Are you looking at then doing something where you have a baseline of standards that you want to have, and then you have that discussion, as you say, that collaboration to create those cultural norms and regional norms within that policy and procedure? So does that impact how you're writing your policies and procedures? If you could kind of speak about that, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I have a very good advantage. My boss. Like, for everyone who is a boss, please be like him. Yeah, my boss is from Sweden and with a huge experience and very sensitive to cultural differences and very aware of what the company has and the company needs. So in that matter, I mean, I'm not doing this by myself. It's a combination of minds, doing the hard work, of course, but always supervised and edited a lot of edition from him, which is good. I appreciate it. Like, but really, really appreciate it because, for example, I will give you an example. I started um, writing this, remembering a little bit of what we had in my former company, which had a lot of things already done and structured. And usually my job was just to customize some things or update some other because I did some work with those topics. For example, standardizing things in Mexico, but with the base, with the global base, right? So let's say I had some experience and knowledge somewhere about that. And so based on that, I was like, okay, we need A, B, C, D, etc. And I started giving form to this document. Of course, I used ASIS standards, physical security standard. Um, I used some other that I had from other companies that were like shared to me. You know, it's important to grab information that is there. Even using AI, I use a lot ChatGPT. That is, well, one kind of ChatGPT that is like allowed from the company. I'm not using
Yes.
anything like, okay.
Yeah.
So, but I did my amazing document in my mind, and when I went to my boss, he said, "Okay, the idea is perfect, but of course there was a but. We need to a make this understandable to people who is not security professional or who is not necessarily someone that is like with all this background that you and I have. Okay,
Yeah.
then simplify and make the wording easier to anyone. Okay, and second, what he said, and it was something that I didn't have in my mind, was that anything you write there can should be auditable. If you cannot,
Yes.
I mean, we cannot put things here that we won't be able to accomplish with or install or do, at least in the first stage of the rollout or the first stage of the implementation of this standard or policy. So that was a thing that it wasn't. really in the front of my head, and he has a huge experience in audits and things like that. So that's why it was very. So my bottom line here, it's I think it's very very useful for anyone to have someone that knows a little bit more, either about the company, either about the processes or whatever, because another couple of eyes seeing what you're trying to say, it's super important.
Yes.
It's like a couple
Yeah.
of fresh eyes saying this. So,
I could go about that forever about the quality assurance, quality control, checks
right.
and balances,
Rights
and
principles, etc.
even
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But if I can expand on what you said there, there was a couple of points there that really excited me when you mentioned the fact that you have to be able to audit your process, but then as well, then as you go through this, before you even get to some of the stuff which is the focus of this podcast is like systems and solutions in place, you're trying to identify policies and procedures which then themselves may require tools to measure them,
Mm.
right, and tools to gather and to report. And again, with stuff that's happening with technology now, it's gathering pace like crazy, metadata and so on. How are you finding right now that, and of course, budget? You're
Hmm.
looking at creating a budget for yourself, for your group, so that you can deploy those policies and procedures and standards. Are you starting to be at this stage right now where you're purely at the standard stage, or are you starting to look at those underlying tools, systems, and solutions to manage those standards? Is that happening? Is that next, or is that happening concurrently with your standards? How is that working for you?
Let's say that I am taking a look to things, but it's not going to happen yet. This is something that we need to have in a moment where we have the people, we have trained them, we have the rollout of the information that we created, and having like the machinery moving, then the part of we're checking, monitoring to control and improve will come. Yeah, I think that today it's a very young stage to monitor anything. What I'm trying to do, well, I will do, but I'm designing kind of a tool, a simple thing. It's kind of not a survey, but a checklist to see in each location what do you have and what you don't have. So just like to have an overview, because so far I cannot be everywhere. I would love to, and I will at some point, but remember that I told you security industry, no, automotive industry, low budgets right now, we're having trouble, etc. Like everyone, this is not
Yeah,
the moment for me to travel everywhere. I should, but not yet. So what I need to have is eyes everywhere,
of
and
course.
there's where the engagement process already started. The to have these sponsors within the organization that can tell me, okay, right now in this plant in France, I have this person that sometimes take care of A or B. Okay, person number one, there you go, my checklist, and please tell me what do you have, etc. So like this will be, I think this could be a part of the rollout, or maybe before it, to be more knowledgeable of what is going on everywhere, because it's so different everywhere.
Of course. Yeah. Now that layers me into another kind of thing there, where if you're new in this role and you're dealing with acquisitions and mergers and different cultures already, then this having somebody at a global security level approaching them can be quite threatening,
Mm.
right? It's, well, what are you doing? What are you going to change? How is this going to impact me? So
Mhm.
I'm guessing that how I would call it soft skills,
Yeah.
how you actually communicate with your internal teams is really key. Have you found that to get the information that you need without people putting up walls and barriers?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, remember you said that I had a. degree on corporate communication,
Yeah, yeah.
which was very useful. But that part was something that I already kind of had in my skill set.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think security in the past was a very kind of cold and like squared mindset
Mhm.
and people that operated security, and it was okay at the time. But I think that now that we are not, I think I feel that we're not anymore this, super heavyweight in organizations, but we're becoming someone important in the decision making.
Mhm.
If you're opening a new plant, it's a very important thing to do is to check if it's a safe location, for example. It's just
Yes.
like a random example. So being in an organization as a business manager, not only a security manager, and then that changes a lot the narrative and the approach and the I don't know, connection with people.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, I mean, one a key point here is my supervisor. He has been in the company a couple of years, three, two, something like that. So that part was already like that way was already walked a little bit. So engaging with people, and then I come and I think, I guess, I feel that I can. It's not complicated for me to connect with people, so that's why it's
Mhm.
very important. For example, now that I'm seeing everyone through a camera or through a video call, to open the
It's
camera,
how we met. It's how we met.
right?
Yeah, on a mentor mentee call.
Exactly.
So, kind of drawing back to the point of having people to help you and help others. Yeah, we got introduced through that and connected through that. But there's so many different. This is one of the things that I need to have you back on for like another podcast to dive into specific
Yeah, I know.
individual points because each question could be 40 minutes or an hour. But as you were talking about that whole process of like, the using the soft skills, gaining the information,
Connection.
getting the
It's
process, and,
connection.
and the fact that the industry's changing from this rigid box to being part of a business. Agreeing, it's a business tool, and it's a key business tool, particularly in this ever changing world with even more potential threats on the cyber side and such. Have you noticed or have you seen that the approach you get as a client? I mean, a lot of people will see you and your organization as like, oh, these guys are a big fish. These guys must have lots of money. I'm a sales guy. I'm going to go after you, or I'm going to find out what you've got. Now, many cases, are you finding that as we're changing in the environment for security on a corporate level, and it's getting more embedded as a business practice, the approach of people providing you with system solutions has changed, or is it the same old in the box?
The way to approach.
Oh no, just how they're approaching you
Yeah,
currently right now. Or have you seen the methodology changed in regards
not
to
much.
technology, tools, solutions? Not much.
No, honestly, not much.
Yeah.
I mean, it has increased since I changed my position 6 months ago. I received tons of messages via LinkedIn, like, "Hey, hello, well, whatever." Yeah, but I think that it hasn't changed much. Well, like answering to your
Yeah.
question because I started
So
to talk about.
where do you think it needs to go? I mean, the whole idea with this is the conversation is that this whole broadcast is out there to try and help people be successful in large scale projects and enterprise solutions, and you definitely fall into that,
Hmm.
that popper, right, with the size and scope, and you may need many different tools and solutions and situations and scenarios that you're going to encounter where realistically, one item does not fit all, right? You're
Yeah.
going to have a collection, a suite of things happening. Are you finding that manufacturers are actually reaching out to find out about what you need, or are they just fishing in the pond?
The second. What I would love,
So,
for example, sorry, um, is that for someone, yes, we're a big fish, absolutely, and can be a good deal, but it depends, right? What it will help a lot if is that the person that is trying to reach out reads a little bit about where I am working at to begin with. Now, I have received text by LinkedIn. Like in Spanish, you know that we have masculine and feminine for the nouns in general. In English, is
yes.
neutral, right? Generally
Yeah, yeah.
speaking. So I cannot deal with someone saying, "Dear Mister Natalia," something like that, or
Yes.
putting the adjectives in masculine and I am a woman. The, where you see that you're just part of like a template that they just copy pasted and you're not interested in making business with me, at least to begin with, I will absolutely second zero delete that message. um
Yeah.
and what, as I said, like understanding a little bit who is the company where the person that you're trying to approach is working at, because yeah, I mean, I could receive sometimes information about things that has nothing to do with a company like the one that I'm at, or yeah, I mean, understanding a little bit and approaching with some knowledge, that can be a deal breaker. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you find, I know your time is precious and everybody's time is precious, and you've got a global, I don't know what your calendars are like from morning till night. I'm sure you're
Ah,
outside of working hours.
like this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But do you find that any of these providers, and again, we're looking at tools that can be as simplistic as reporting tools and such, right through to system solutions, video access control, intrusion, whatever, are actually reaching out to you to educate you in what they're doing or what's happening as best practice that maybe can help you? Are you finding that's happening at all?
Yeah, some of them, for example, could reach out like explaining what they do, which is always useful. Um, or what I've found that it's super cool is whenever, for example, talking about any software or platform to, I don't know, Intel information or traveler support or this kind of things that are web based or not like a physical thing. Um, to or for example, I found out several companies that they had interesting tools for risk assessments and yeah, evaluations and things like that. So for these, it's really cool that you have a demo or you have a trial period to understand and get familiar with the thing and see if it really works for you or not. For me, that's, I mean, I know that with not with everything that is in the industry, this is doable, but at least with some of the things, or for example, I used to have, well, still I have the same supplier, well, not me. When I was working in the former company, a provider of GPS trackers that were, I mean, they really listened to me because I
Yes.
needed a specific type of things. And I'm not talking about technical features because on that, I'm not an expert. I just know what I want. You make it happen. Don't put
Yes.
me to think on, super technical things because I don't know and I don't care. What I need is a result. So they just listened very well, created a solution that was really tailor made for us with the things that they already had. And the project was very, very good. And it was GPS tracking and, panic bottom, audio, and etc. So What I'm saying is, and of course, we had a trial month with the devices to make improvements, to see if the process of the response, everything was okay or not, and whatever. And that was a teamwork with
Yes.
my vendor and myself and my team at that time. It's not the current company, but yeah, I think those that combination of things, like understanding the needs, opening the conversation to make it work together, having some demos or trials or things so you can use it, get familiar with that, and improve things for both. That's a very good combination, and for me was like, I will use them forever, no matter in which company I am. I know that I can trust them, and that's the basis of my work.
And that's huge. I think for anybody listening to this who's in a sales cycle per se that provides tools and systems at enterprise level, that that soundbite, that comment that you mentioned, the communication, the
Listening.
trialing, the customization, and the listening to deliver a solution, and investing in your culture. Uh, and the closing statement was, "I'll use those forever." They've got my business forever. And that's every situation, I've been a manufacturer's rep in the past, and that's a situation you want to be in, or you have a client. As an integrator as well, but as I used to do national accounts back in the day, when you have a client that discussing their 5 and 10 year budget plans with, because you're vested as a partner together, then
Exactly.
that's huge.
That's the word.
And I'll add to that too as well, that I'm going to ask you a supplementary question. It may be too early in your process right now, but sometimes those direct connections with manufacturers is perfect. As you say, you had a specific need, a specific product, a specific requirement, and they delivered for you, which is fabulous. There may be situations, or in the past or present, where that's not always achievable with one solution. And then
Mhm.
I know you've been a consultant previously as well, and I always look at these layers where sometimes you may need a consultant. Sometimes I'm a consultant, I'd say you'd need me all the time, but it's not true. There are times when those direct relationships are there, but in certain environments where a consultant is needed to bring those things together for you. Equally important to listen to your needs. Have you used any in the past, or is your previous experience where you've actually done that to bring, if you want to say, a solution together? It isn't one product that meets a solution; it's a more of a holistic stuff. Where are you on that one with your experience and what's coming up for you?
Like putting together, I'm rephrasing it to see if I understood. Putting different maybe vendors together in one solution, or
Or just investigating that you maybe have an idea or a deliverable that is not achievable with one
okay.
product or one solution.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
for me that sounds good. And we go back a little bit on what we were saying before. If there is one vendor or provider uh, that it's already my partner, my, you know, yeah, business partner. And for example, I'm not having what I need totally from you, but I trust you. So you tell me who would be the right person or company to work with you and make this happen. Because I
Mm-hmm.
will trust you. I mean, I already trust you. I will trust whatever you say. And in that sense, yeah, I've done that before too. And also being a consultant, I mean, in the company where I was working at, they had they were very very specialized, and they have a huge knowledge about several things that are needed in the industry from a security perspective. But sometimes, I mean, you needed to have an extra thing. So they were going to other colleagues to make this joint and work together. I mean, it's better to have 50% of something than 0% of something, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not able to get a complete solution, I think that is really valuable that you say, okay, I cannot deal 100% with this, but I have this other company or people or whatever that I trust. What do you think if we work together? And then we meet, and then maybe we can start working together. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that there could be some, I don't know, provider or company that can cover everything, and it's okay. It's okay.
And I think that's cool that you say that, because actually in the previous broadcast, Tim referenced that, Tim McCreate referenced that, where he said, along the lines of, I'd rather think that meets my company's needs 100%, maybe does 80% of what I need, but it does it 100% the way I want it to be done.
Exactly.
Because then maybe the other 20% I can cover off with manned services or policies, procedures, standards, but at least I have that baseline. And there's so many people who will say yes, they can do something just to get the sale when really they cannot.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer with everybody in testing. Anybody who knows me knows I'm pretty techie, get my fingers in things. But as you rightly said, with your solution with the GPS, that show me it works, show me to my standards, that it's exactly what you say, and does exactly as it's specified and requested, particularly if it's customized, or programmed a certain way, which typically is the case in enterprise solutions. And then it's very easy to say, oh yeah, we can do that, it's easy. But if you haven't done it before, you can't show me, then show me. Show me on my site, show me in my location, and or at least show me a white paper that said I've done it somewhere else before and it's very, very
That
successful,
is
or
true.
somebody I can call.
Because I've seen some people showing things that are not true. And that's like absolutely non acceptable.
Yeah, and you hope that in many cases, I don't even think in many cases it's a lack of integrity. I think it's maybe a lack of knowledge or an assumption of what things can do. But off the back of that comes promises, and then mistrust after that, unfortunately. So again, it's a good check and balance to anybody talking to any clients to say, hey, 100%. I'd rather walk away and say, I don't know, I'll come back to you.
Absolutely.
And that's a good advice to everybody. And it's also a good point that you said, that you can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
I think we all accept that, yes, we do this, but we don't do that, is an acceptable answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very cool as a message for anybody listening to this, that if you think you have to say yes to all of your questions to get your business and to provide you with a solution, isn't the case.
And I think like it's I would prefer to hear that. Like, I mean, for me, would be more valuable if you say, okay, I cannot do this, but I can do this. However, I know someone that can help us with that. For me, that it speaks very high of someone like having that approach or that position.
And I think you'll find as well that if you look at the core systems at enterprise level now, there are many organizations who realize they don't do that well, or they don't do that at all, but now have partnerships in place with those types of
Right.
organizations. Like, some do combinations. I do this well, but I don't do this well, but I know they go together, so I'm going to partner with integrations
Yeah.
that are tried and tested and solid. So it's you can see that part of the industry growing readily, where almost like these little consortia of partnerships are growing, where if you're talking with one, they can introduce you to others that they know already works together to help you grow that you're covering your needs.
Yes, and also related to geographical coverage. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe you're extraordinarily good in the three North American countries, but you have no operations, I don't know, in Poland. But I also need you in Poland. So also that's a very, I mean, if someone is trying to have a global business or a bigger region scope, well, maybe you are not able to yet, maybe in the future, but not yet. You don't have people in I don't know, Brazil. You're just in the US and Mexico, for example. Well, get to know people that is trustworthy and that is a specialist in Brazil, so they can provide you this service and work together. So you are going to be like more easily successful doing these partnerships. And I know companies that do that, and I think this is pretty valid.
Very much so, and I have previous experience doing that similarly, where I had a national account client that was Canadian based, but was doing business in India and Israel. So we had to work out how to create those partnerships there. We didn't have our own locations there, but to be successful in that space, and it's very very key that people are flexible and think about those environments. But now also I think there's a lot of talk about what's called the single pane of glass. Now we're getting into a situation where integrations are becoming more easier per se. I don't think they're easy in any way. There's obviously lots of cybersecurity layers and such in there as well, but we're so used to now to having a smart device, a tablet where everything's displayed in one port regardless of what's happening. That do you feel now that, as you mentioned, cultural differences and regional differences, that as long as you get the results, do you care less now that it's the same product in those geographical locations, as long as they can give you the same results?
Yeah, I think I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, not
and I think
necessarily.
it's a
The same suit doesn't fit everyone.
yeah,
No,
agreed.
I don't think that the same thing would be what could be very useful, for example, in some cases, because there are not many companies in the security world that have a global footprint. Some of them, yeah, some like, I don't know, Securitas, G4S, it's kind of companies that have, I don't know if they are worldwide, but they have a very good, a very big scope, right? But I think, um, at least not in the physical things, guards or I don't know, cameras, maybe softwares or things like that. But the coverage, the scope is not going to be always in everywhere. But again, if you can partner with someone with in another country and with the local needs and um, the local resources, might be a different solution, but the same in the base to give the result that we
Yeah,
want, right? I think that's
exactly.
doable. Hmm.
I think as well that it's very very interesting that you're growing out policies, procedures, standards, and then systems and solutions, and now we're in the cyber world as well,
Thankfully,
and
it's
we're
not in my scope.
but I'm sure collaboration is happening
Absolutely,
as you
yes, of course. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. It goes back to the
there's
point
a
of
bunch of people
listening.
that do that, and they're amazing, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I have the same within my consulting peers, that we have a number of people who are specifically detailed for that cybersecurity side to the business, and it's amazing though how much it rolls into physical and people skills and communications and trends and traits. It's amazing how the basics of going back to like finding the thumb drive on the ground and plugging in what's in here,
Yeah,
avoiding that sort of situation. But it's even more important now as we find, as you rightly said, that we're coming out of this box and we're moving into security becoming business tools and not being sectioned off, not being air gapped, not being, they're actually part of core systems and solutions now in many
yeah,
organizations globally. Um, and so that cybersecurity side is very, very key. So, I agree with you. I like to stay with the experts and engage with them, but
I
it's a
know what I need to
huge,
do,
huge
but
portion.
yeah, not all.
Yeah. So, as I think a final question for you, Natalia, is just that as we've been talking through this and going through this kind of journey of your challenges and some of the things that you've seen, um, what are you finding right now is your if you had one thing on the top of your list that you wished you could have, what would it be?
In my job,
Yeah.
I think the thing well, the first thing that popped to my to my head was to be able to travel and meet the people in person.
Yeah.
That will be the I mean, that will come, but not yet. Hasn't come yet.
Yeah.
And for me, it's not the same because, as I said, connection and establishing these relationships with your I don't know, peers or whoever in the company that it's some way going to be impacted by your work or vice versa, or you need to get involved with because I don't know, travelers or whatever, you name it, and to establish things. I feel like the best way to put in place a new rule
Mm-hmm.
or a new procedure or whatever is to be there and feel the place and feel the people and make them feel you and make them feel that you're not there to say no to everything and to close all the doors and put cameras everywhere in the bathroom, things like that. No, that can be thought. Is like, no, we're doing this together, and I'm trying to do that in this way, that like we're talking today in a video call. But there's nothing like human connection, direct human connection, and I'm a huge fan on that. And I think that I've based a big part of my job on that, like saying I'm here for you and I listen to you, and together we'll make this happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That wraps up this episode beautifully because it rounds back to communication
Yeah.
and connection and how key that is in delivering anything that meets
Everything.
your needs, your examples. It's so, so cool. So, Natalia, thank you so much.
I was
That was
very, very happy
fantastic.
to be here.
Thank you again for your time, passion, energy. It was wonderful. And I'd just like, if you want to get involved in future podcasts and episodes and presentations that I'm doing, want to recommend somebody, have any questions or areas you'd like me to cover, focus on this, anywhere in the world on delivering enterprise electronic security solutions, feel free to message me directly, bill.danieltse@gmail.com. TSE obviously stands for The Security Experience. Plus, obviously, subscribe to all the channels. This will be posted as a podcast and also video on YouTube. And obviously, please follow myself personally on LinkedIn and also the Security Experience group. That'd be fantastic. I'll talk with Natalia later if she wants her links posted.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. I was really honored to be with you in this
No
project.
problem. So I'll see you in a few weeks on the next view. And then this is Bill Daniel here with my esteemed guest, Natalia Cerutti, on the Security Experience. Again, see you in a few weeks. Thank you and goodbye.